right now we want to talk about preparing for university.
Drive Live talks education.
We have 3 guests in the studio today, so I'd like to welcome you along. First of all, Daniel Lewis is the principal of North London Collegiate School. Daniel, welcome to the programme.
Thank you very much.
We also have Jennifer Hager, who's a principal, head of secondary school, Collegiate American School. Got you the right way round.
Yes,
welcome,
you.
Jennifer. And Elisa Bryan is the education consultant at Hale Education. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, good to see you all. So, preparing for university is a topic we're going to talk about today. So, if you're listening to this and you have university memories and you're thinking, oh, did I do the right thing? Did I know enough before I went? What would I tell myself if I could rewind 10, maybe 15, maybe 20, maybe 30 years? Think back to those memories. Or if you have children and they're heading off to university in the not too distant future, what do you think you would like them to know? So we want to hear from you. Text us 4001 via the free messaging app, or you can give us a call. If you have questions for our guests, they're happy to take them. 423 1010 is our number. But we're going to start off with some of the education news stories we've seen come up this week. And we're going to start off with a topic we talked about quite recently, but it's one of those subjects that really gets people going, and it's about homework. Should schools have homework? Is there too much? Is there a wrong age to be doing homework? I'm going to come to you, Daniel, because you're smiling. So when it comes to homework, do you think that we're giving children too much?
So I think it depends very much on the school that you're talking about. I know that some schools here in Dubai don't favour homework, particularly in the primary years. We certainly do. We describe ourselves as an ambitious academic school, and we do have very high hopes for our students. And many of the parents who choose us are choosing us for the reason that they want to send their children to the world's leading universities. So homework for us is an important aspect to the education that we're offering. We do think it provides students with the chance to consolidate what they've learnt, to prepare for classes that are coming, but it's got to be purposeful. It's got to be something that's actually useful to the child.
What do you do if a parent is with you, Daniel, demand, if I don't know if this has happened, but a parent thinks their child isn't getting enough homework, isn't doing enough at home, and is perhaps pushier than they need to be? How do you work? I'm always interested to know how you work with parents like that are driving their kids for good reason, but driving perhaps a little bit too hard, or even in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. There are parents who feel pressure, great pressure, whether it be external or internal, and I do think it's important to explain to them that children who just spend their whole life doing homework are not going to be able to benefit from what a real education can offer. They're not going to be able to develop those softer skills that top universities really value, such as the extracurricular activities, such as the music, the drama that we mentioned earlier. They've got to have a balanced approach to their education, or they won't be able to succeed at that very, very top level that top universities actually want.
And do you think it is a case that maybe some parents are hearing what their friends are saying? Oh, well, my child at this school has this homework, and if my son or daughter isn't doing the same, then they're being let down.
Absolutely. I think people do feed off each other's pressure in that way, and it's very difficult to ignore it when your best friend's telling you that their child is doing X, Y, and Z, and obviously achieving very highly. But I think it's important for parents to understand their own children, to be confident about their knowledge of their own children, and not to listen to those internal voices or perhaps those external voices that are pushing them.
So we're talking education today. We have 3 guests in the studio, and we're talking about the topic of being prepared for going to university. And there's a story that we've seen in the news this week, and it's kind of part and parcel of this topic. Lots of young people are suggesting that maybe when they go to university, they're not as ready as they might have been. Maybe they could have done with a bit of support, whether that's choosing where to go to university or whether that's choosing what courses to do and what to expect, I guess.
I'm just thinking there. I mean, it's slightly different from the US to the UK, and the decision you make, whatever you decide and wherever you decide to go, depends so much on research. It's such a huge decision, and I'm wondering if lots of people make decisions based on where an uncle goes or a cousin's gone or this kind of thing, which may work brilliantly, may not work brilliantly. Daniel, what's the key thing when you sit down to think, well, what am I going to do? This is from a UK perspective. This is your experience, I guess, initially. What's the key thing when you sit down to think, well, I'm going to move on and do this. I'm good at these topics. So would this university be the fit? Is that the way to follow the train of thought, as it were?
I think it's really important important that the students choose something that they are genuinely passionate about. So from a UK perspective, because university degrees tend to be quite subject focused, it's easier, I guess, in the sense that you have to be honest with yourself about the subjects that you enjoy, the subject that you may want to take further. And as a school that really values subjects and really focuses on subject teaching and subject specialism, we would certainly use that route to help guide a student. But of course, you have to keep doors open as much as you can because people's lives change. So one of the things that we've introduced in the UK school and are bringing here in Dubai is the International Baccalaureate. And we love the IB diploma because it actually keeps students a little bit broader in their subject choices than A-levels. You know, the UK curriculum is pushing you all the time to narrow, specialise, whereas the IB diploma ensures that you keep 6 subjects, 3 at higher level, 3 at standard level. And that is actually really helpful for the kids.
Daniel, do you think there is a real strong role that schools can play in making sure pupils are prepared to go on and even at the earlier stages make those choices?
Absolutely. I mean, you've got to have really strong university guidance counselling within the school, and I know there are a lot of services here in Dubai who are sort of offering parents the chance to sort of receive support in their university application process. But for me, it's the school's responsibility to have the expertise in house to be able to really support those students, to have the relationships with the US universities, to know the UK system really, really well, and be able to support the children throughout their application process, right from 15, 16, right through until they go off to university.
What does guidance counselling look like in school now? Because I'm thinking back to my time and my school counsellor guidance, I don't know quite what he was. He was a geography teacher. I remember he had patches on his elbows as well, which was great. I remember him saying, well, you could go into the city and work in insurance. And I remember thinking, yeah, not going to happen. Don't think that's going to be the direction for me. But, I mean, things have changed a great deal. Counselling in schools is obviously key. It's obviously important. Well-being, I understand that now. But how much does it include, Daniel, things like life counselling, preparing for that next stage? Because university, whether you like it or not, is a stage in your life, hopefully a critical stage.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think we call it careers guidance or careers counselling, and that's about talking to students about where they see their life going, their sort of longer term plans for their career. One of the most important things I think for us as educators today is to recognise that almost all of our students will not have one career. They won't have one job as they go into the future. They will have many, some of them, and some of them will. A lot of them, a much higher proportion, will end up working for themselves and running their own businesses than was ever the case before. So I think recognising that and recognising that students' careers are going to be fluid is important for them and of course for us in trying to advise them.
And Daniel, I mean, from your personal experience, what practical tips do you wish you'd known at the time?
About going to university?
Well, yeah.
Well, I think probably time management. I did a very unstructured degree where there's very little contact with tutors as such. So you were very much in charge of your own time, and that for me suited me very poorly, actually, because it meant that I just went off and did pretty much whatever I wanted. And so that was great fun, and I enjoyed it very much, and I got involved in a huge range of extracurricular activities that you can do at university. So the student newspaper, I did lots of drama, did lots of things that I was passionate about, and they've really shaped what I've done and who I've become far more than actually the subjects that I was studying.
Was that a shock to the system? Sorry, when you leave home, essentially, don't you? I suppose lots of people, it's the first time they leave home, they go to university, and then all of a sudden you have to do your own washing, you got to feed yourself, clothe yourself, pay for your buses, whatever it is you're doing, and all of a sudden you also have to apply yourself as well, and that's a real shock.
Yeah, I think it's tricky if you've been in a school that's sort of giving you lots and lots of input all the time, and for want of a better word, spoon feeding. One of the things I really like about the IB diploma is that it doesn't, it requires you as a student to be independent, to manage your own time really effectively, and to sort of chart your own path in terms of your studies. So that for me is a great preparation and something I think more students could benefit from.
Okay, Daniel, I want to stay on that point for a second because David's texted in with a question that I think you and Jennifer are both very well placed to answer. David says, as a parent, how do I decide whether IB or a different curriculum is best to prepare for university for my child?
That's a great question, and I think a lot of it is to do with your child, your own child, and who you will know best. For me, the strength of the IB is that it does require that greater independence, that greater ability to think for yourself and to analyse. And we do find actually that there are, and statistics also demonstrate this, that a higher proportion of IB students actually complete the degree they start, so they are finishers, and a higher proportion of IB students actually get first-class degrees in the UK in UK universities. So that for me speaks for itself, really.
Okay, and just briefly, Jennifer, would you say it's great to offer parents this insight into what the children are going through?
Absolutely. At Collegiate American, we have bi-weekly coffee talks, and those talks are centered around what the parents want to know. They literally wrote their own design for those discussions, and a big common discussion is, what's the IB? How does it work? How does it prepare my child? And is it better than the AP or the American curriculum?
And Daniel, same question to you.
Yeah, lots of parent workshops. They're really important. They need to understand what it is their students are studying, and then as you go through the university application process, you've got to keep the parents inside that particular boat and going through that journey with their children, so that they actually understand what's going on.
Really solid advice for you parents out there. Thank you very much to our three guests today. We had Jennifer Hager, Principal, Head of Secondary School, Collegiate American School. Jennifer, thank you for coming on the programme.
Thank you, my pleasure.
We also had Elisa Bryan, one of the education consultants at Hale Education. Thanks for coming in again.
Thank you so much for having me.
And Daniel Lewis, Principal of North London Collegiate School. Actor, but not Daniel Day-Lewis.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining us.
There's just so much more to hear.
Download our podcasts at DubaiEye1038.com.